Hey, good morning. Glad to have you with us today for this study into the unsung heroes of the Bible. My mug today says on it, Roma. Uh, Picked that up on a trip with New Orleans Seminary to Italy. Brenda and I'll be going again coming up in this month of March to help lead a group of students and others, and looking forward to being back in Italy again. And so today I'm praying for those folks there in Italy, that they and the churches there and the ministries that go on there. Well, as we continue this look at unsung heroes of the Bible, and as we're walking through, uh, you know, uh, once again, as I said yesterday, everybody knows the story of Moses and the major figures there, but there are some unsung heroes in the story of Moses as well. Uh, they didn't part Red Seas and things, but they were very important to God's work as there. So, have you ever, when you're thinking about Moses, stop for a moment and think about who raised him? What about his parents? Uh, Behind this mighty man of God are some unsung heroes. His parents, Amram and Jochebed. And so you might not have ever even heard their names before, but they are heroes, unsung heroes of faith, and they displayed that faith. And in the salvation of Israel, they should be recognized as well. They found themselves in a life and death situation. We talked yesterday about the midwives, about that order that came down from the king in Exodus, the first chapter. Um, uh, uh, and that life and death order of the king to kill all the male babies of the Hebrews, that had an impact on Moses' birth. And so Israel was suffering under Pharaoh's oppression. He'd made them to be slaves, and we talked about Shiphrah and Puah defied Pharaoh's command to kill the boys, but he doubled down on his cruelty in Exodus 1:22. Every Hebrew boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live. So he's getting even more vicious, even if they were born. See, the midwives kind of got by saying they're having their babies too quick and we can't do anything about it. They're already born before we get there. He's saying, well, I'll take care of that. Even if they are born, throw them in the river. There's some big Nile crocodiles and of course, drowning and things of that sort. So he was trying to make certain that the baby boys of the Hebrews would die. Um, and that included the child that Jochebed would soon give birth to, who we know, Moses, right? But instead of giving into fear like she could have, she and Amram made a radical decision here. They were going to trust God and not obey Pharaoh. And that was a radical decision for them. Uh, so they decided they would hide this future deliverer of Israel. In Exodus chapter 2, we find that for 3 months they hid Moses, nearly an impossible task with a newborn. There's a lot of crying and stuff that goes on there, but they were able to do that. But when they could no longer keep him safe, Jochebed came up with a desperate yet faith-filled plan. And that is, she placed the baby in a waterproof basket and set him adrift on the Nile, put him in the hands of God. But it wasn't a total act of surrender, nor was it without some thought behind it, because she placed it in such a way that it would pass, the basket would be found by Pharaoh's daughter. And she trusted God that good things would happen. Well, God honors her faith. Remember the story about the basket in the reeds of the Nile, there in Exodus 2. A miraculous thing happens. Pharaoh's daughter finds the baby, has compassion on him, wants to take him in as being her own baby, but she needed a wet nurse. And so, what happens? Well, Moses' sister Miriam was watching and jumped up and said, "I know a wet nurse." And it turned out that the wet nurse was Jochebed herself, Moses' mother. And not only was Moses saved, Jochebed got to raise him for a good portion of time in his preschool years. And, and that had a lasting impact on Moses and his faith. So Amram and Jochebed, their faith wasn't just about saving their own baby. It was about shaping a leader, having an opportunity to shape a leader in God's work. You know, Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 23 says this: "By faith Moses' parents hid him for 3 months after he was born, because they saw he was no ordinary child, and they were not afraid of the king's edict." And so we find that Hebrews tells us that these two were heroes of the faith, not just unsung heroes, but heroes of the faith. Their courage and their obedience laid the foundation for Moses, his foundational years, when he was very young, so that he could be that leader that he needed to be when God called him to be that. So what are some lessons we can learn from Amram and Jochebed? Well, faith over fear. They refused to let Pharaoh's decree and his intimidation stop them from doing what God asked them to do. Also, trusting God with the unknown. Placing Moses in that basket in the Nile was an act of trust, just putting their own son in the hands of God. And then we also learned from them that parental influence matters. That though they had him for a very short time when he was very young, it seems as though it shaped him for the future. So, sometimes faith requires that we go out on a limb, as it were, trusting God, and even with the things most precious to us, like our children. Maybe you're facing an impossible situation today. Maybe you're worried about your children and their future. Well, take courage. Look at these unsung heroes of Amram and Jochebed and understand that God sees, God provides. He has a greater plan than we can ever imagine. Well, I hope that's encouraging to you today. If you'd like to share this channel and subscribe to it and like these lessons, we really appreciate that. Also, you can find out more about Tim Searcy Ministries at timsearcyministries.com. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.